I am working on a prom dress right now, and we have decided that we're taking off 18 inches. And so I'm going to take you on my little journey of how I am working on that. Okay, so I don't know if you're like me, I have 4 girls and they're on the shorter side. So we had to alter a lot of their dresses for prom. And the first thing that you need to do is have the person put on the dress and get a straight pin and find out where it is they want it to end up. And put your pin right where that mark is, and then do another pin about an inch, maybe even 2 inches lower, depending. So if they're not sure, one thing I always have to remind myself and you is that it's easier to take more off than to add it back on. Once you have cut it, it's gone, okay? So if you're not too sure of the length, leave some extra length to begin with. So I am working on a prom dress right now, and we have decided that we're taking off 18 inches. And so I'm going to take you on my little journey of how I am working on that. So here we have our prom dress. The very first thing I did is I took my measuring tape and I went from where the pin was and I went straight down, and we have right around 18 inches. Okay, so my goal is to keep taking that 18 inches and measuring up from the bottom, and then I'm taking my after I smooth it out, then I'm taking my measuring stick and moving it across, and then I am once I have it all lined up, then I am cutting it across with my sharpest rotary blade that I have. Once I have it cut, then I am rotating it around. And you can see this is sheer fabric that I'm working with. So it's not really easy to work with. And the dress, of course, is going to be really heavy, so I have to have something to hold it up on the table. So you'll have to find whatever that is for you. So it's just when you're working with nice fabric, you just have to work at it a little at a time and be patient. But so that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm going around and I'm making sure it all measures the 18 inches around. So that's what you're gonna have to do a lot of, is measuring and then cutting. And you'll see that because some of the dresses, they're going to come down and around. So if you start from the bottom and you keep measuring like that, if you need to get a chalk or something to make little marks also on your fabric, then that will also help to guide where you need to cut. So that's the first thing that you need to do, is make your marks, and then you can make your cuts as you're going around, okay? Okay, so there are gonna be some points on the dress where it curves. So you may just need to use your scissors and use some sharp scissors and follow the marks that you have marked on the dress, like I have, to match up with each other. Okay, and then you're ready to move on to the next side of the dress. So like I said, it's just, you're working on it little by little, but keep measuring from the bottom up to the point where you need to trim. Also, if there's several layers, make sure that you move the layers so that you're doing one layer at a time. It can be a little tedious, but it's really, really important to keep those layers separate. So with this particular dress, I am actually going to, I've cut the front and now I'm going to separate the side to make it easier to be able to cut the back. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my rotary cutter and just cut off and separate the back from the front. Non-grips. I have little grips on the back of this and it helps it so it doesn't slide. Okay, great. So you can see I've now cut off the length of the back that I don't need. I'm going to set this aside. So we're actually going to use part of this to cover up some of the front so that it covers up some of the cleavage. Okay. So now I have the back and I'm going to start again of measuring the 18 inches and I'm going to go around and cut it off. Okay. And that's what you would do with your dress, is you would measure from the bottom up and mark it. If you have straight lengths like this panel right here, you can see there's sewing lines right here. This would be a good one that I could use my rotary cutter so I could get a nice clean cut, and then I can use the next angle to get another clean cut. Okay, so I want to do a little disclaimer here. So although I have altered several dresses for my daughters and for friends, I just want to let you know I am not a professionally trained seamstress for dresses. This is just something that I have figured out on my own on the way. I chose not to pay someone else to do it, and I wanted to do it for my girls, and it's always looked nice. They've never complained. They've loved their dresses and they've gone to their proms. So if you're trying to save a little bit of money, then this is a good way to go. It's just something that we have found. It's like if you get a bunch up like this, when you cut it, then you just take your fingernail and you run the string back down so it doesn't gather. Okay. Even if the dress does not turn out perfect, you'll find I am not a perfectionist. No one is going to be eyeing it very closely. Most girls will wear their dresses one time and then it ends up in the thrift store. So you decide what you want to do. If you want to fix your own dress or go pay someone $100 or more to fix it for you. So I tried cutting with the scissors and it leaves jagged marks and it's just not very pretty. As you can see here, I'm only cutting about 12 inches at a time so that I can control the curvature of the dress. Okay, now we have the back side all cut off, and I'm going to set this fabric aside. Okay, we're going to pull out our dress and see how it is looking. Okay, so it is much shorter, like she wanted. And so now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna have have her come back and try it on and make sure it's the right length one more time. And then after that, then we're going to just take it, and if you have a foot that can do a rolled hem, that would be a good one to use for this. If not, then you're just going to roll it as you go and pin it. And the other thing you could do is you could, if you have a serger, then you can do a serged end. There's a couple of different things, so that's an idea you could do. For this one underneath, you're going to have to do the same thing, fold it under twice and sew it, okay? And just go all the way around with each layer, and then you are done. It's actually quite simple to adjust a hem. It just takes a little time to make sure you get it all the same length. Okay, so when we turn our iron on, because we're working with very really nice fabric, you need to turn it on between around a 1, 2, or 3. You need to look at the kind of fabric you have, and if there's something that a piece of it that is like a scrap, test it on there, make sure that it's not going to leave a mark. So I'm going to get some of the fabric that I cut off, and I'm going to test it. Here's my sheer fabric. I'm going to fill my iron, and it's just lightly warm. So I am going to fold it as if I was going to, for how I want to sew it, and just see the thing that we're looking for. Is it going to melt? Is it going to discolor it? Okay, it's giving me the pressed look that I want. So I'm going to be folding mine. We decided that it was just a little bit long for how long the gal wanted. So we're actually going to fold it up 2 inches. And then once it's folded up the 2 inches, then I'm going to just sew it right along the edge. So yeah, it'll be up here, the dress, this would be the dress, and then I'm going to just sew it right along there. So this is going to be my practice one. I'm going to put my purple thread in, and I'm going to practice first on my scrap piece of fabric and see how it looks. Okay, this is the other fabric. It's more of kind of a silky fabric, and yet it seems like it's a cotton also. So yeah, it looks like they ironed it before also. They did something interesting with this fabric. They actually folded in one side. They folded one side down, and then they folded the other side down. This is for the lining, and then they put them together, and then they sewed the 2 sides together for the lining. So I was just going to do the same thing to sew it back together, since I cut off their finished edges that they did, and then I'm just going to sew the lining with the 2 pieces together. So that is what I plan on doing. So looks like this setting, I have it on a 2, and it is giving me the press that I want for this type of fabric. Here I am, I'm going to sew on my sample fabric to see how it works. Remember, we are sewing right along the edge. Okay, yeah, that looks really nice. I like the finished product. So this is how the front would look. So then I can imagine also, you know, it's going to be darker at the bottom. So I have a choice. I can either cut off the 2 inches and just have a little bit of a seam, or I can have a full inch seam. So that's why I did this also, because I wanted to see, well, how does that actually look, and would that actually look good on the dress? And so now I need to weigh the pros and cons of how it's going to look and make the decision if I'm going to have a big one or just a little tiny seam, and cut off, probably gonna have to cut off 2 inches if I don't like that. So I went ahead and I pinned on my sample to the dress, and I actually like the way it looks, so I'm going to go ahead and do it that way. So now I'm gonna lay it out, and if you have a tool that is kind of like this, you can move this little piece right here to the length that you want to do your fold, and then you can just measure it as you go. So when I'm folding it, I can fold it up to this line, and it's gonna be straight across, and you can see this tool that it's right there in the bottom of my fold, and then this has a little sticks that stick out to the side. So then I can iron it right there, and then I can slide it to the next part further up or further down, and make sure that it's even across the way. So go ahead and do this all the way around for how much you want to do your fold. And I am folding it towards the inside of the dress. I have it reversed right now. Okay, and then I'm just going to keep rotating the dress around and ironing it. Okay, so just go ahead and iron your dress and get it ready for sewing. Okay, now that I've ironed all the way around, I've decided to go back and just do the very edge and turn it under. And that's going to be the little piece that I'm folding under, and then I'm going to just sew it up where I have folded it. So I folded it about 1.5 inches up, almost 2 inches, and then I will sew it right up there. So now I'm going to pin it as I go around this time. So I'll put it down and I'll just rotate it around. I could have sewn it right against the edge first, but sometimes you just gotta, it's kind of a trial and error, see exactly what you want to do with your dress. Try and get it to lay flat. Working with a lot of curves here, so you're going to have to just work with it a little bit at a time. Sometimes they will have to fold over a little bit because it's a curve. All the raw edges will be tucked up inside once you sew it. So you just keep going around the dress a little bit at a time. So yeah, looking at this, it looks like I'm going to have to switch my pins around so they go the direction I'm going to be sewing. So yeah, if I'm sewing this direction, then the pins need to come down, and then you can just take them out as you're sewing. Okay, so looks like that part is ready to go. And so I'm just going to keep going around, and you can keep going around on yours too. Okay, now that it is all ironed, we're going to go ahead and sew along the edge of the dress. going right along the very edge like we had talked about on the practice. Remember, we're working with curves, and so when you have curves, you're going to have a little bunching, and then you're going to have to fold it over and then sew it down. Okay, I have now finished hemming the dress, and now what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece of fabric, it's an extra piece of fabric that I have, and we're going to tack it on right here. We're just going to hook it to the lining underneath here and put it on the lining over here. So we're going to fold it down so that it will have a natural tendency to curl inside. And then this will just be tucked in just so that it covers up a little bit of cleavage. Okay, once you have your needle threaded with matching thread, then tie a knot at the bottom. And then what I'm going to be doing is just grabbing a little bit of the lining underneath. It's not going to go through to the top. Make sure that the knot doesn't go through. And then I'm just going to grab a hold of it. And then I am just going to tack it. So that means I'm just going to go back and forth right here several times. Making sure it does not go through to the front. This time when I go through, I'm also going to go through my string to make a knot. So now I've made a knot, then I'm also going to curl it around in a circle and get it to curl around here. So curl it around and then come through and back up through the top. And I'm going to grab my needle inside of the little hole and then I'm going to pull it down and force the knot down. Okay, so then I'm going to just go down and out. Okay, and that way the string will be underneath where I was sewing. And then I will just trim it off. Okay, so now we'll go and do the other side after I make another knot. Okay. Great, we can go hang it back up and we'll look at it. So we are all done with the dress. Now I'm going to go ahead and steam it so that it is all ready for the dance. So I hope this video helped you to know how you can go about preparing your dress to be the right size for you so that you'll be all ready for the prom. Thanks again for joining me on Creating Joy.